the hardest part of growing older is not watching your hair turn gray or feeling your joints ache on a damp morning. It is sitting across from the person you love and realizing you spent your healthiest years sacrificing your life for a spreadsheet. We are taught to believe that financial discipline means suffering today so we can thrive tomorrow. We are told that if we just hold out long enough, if we deny ourselves every small comfort and delay our social security benefits until the absolute maximum age, the system will reward our patience with a lifetime of security. Except the system does not tell you what those 8 waiting years will actually cost you behind closed doors. And that is where our story truly begins. Not in a dusty economics textbook, but in the quiet, tense atmosphere of a suburban kitchen where the coffee is cold and the silence is heavy. Meet Marcus and Clara. For 38 years, they lived a life defined by steady work, careful budgeting, and quiet dreams of a peaceful retirement. Marcus worked as a municipal inspector, spending his days climbing ladders and walking active construction sites. Clara managed appointments at a local medical clinic, standing on her feet for 8 hours a day, dealing with the daily chaos of healthcare logistics. They were ordinary people living an honest, hardworking life. And by the time they reached their 62nd birthday, they had saved just enough to pay off their modest home, leaving them with a small personal nest egg and a head full of anticipation. They thought the hard part was over. They did not know it was just beginning. Like millions of couples facing the same crossroads, Marcus and Clara sat down with a financial advisor who slid a glossy brochure across the table. The brochure featured a clean, undeniable graph showing a steep upward trajectory. Claim at 62, it warned, and you lock in a permanently discounted check. Wait until 70 and watch the monthly line surge to its absolute maximum peak. The advisor delivered the standard, institutional wisdom with a reassuring smile. Always delay your claim if you want to win the retirement game. Marcus and Clara absorbed every word. It sounded like gospel. They made a solemn pact right there at that laminate table. They would drain their modest personal savings, stretch every dollar, and hold out until age 70 no matter what it took. They believed they were being wise. They believed they were protecting their future. They had no idea they were walking straight into a psychological trap that human beings are simply not wired to survive unscathed. For the first 2 years, the plan limped along. They cut out weekend dinners, canceled their annual camping trip, and turned down invitations from friends because spending $20 on gas felt like a financial crime. Every time Clara looked at a pair of worn-out walking shoes, she told herself she could make the old ones last another season. Every time Marcus felt a dull, persistent ache in his lower back from decades of physical labor, he popped an over-the-counter painkiller and kept working around the house, terrified of spending money on a specialist. They were manufacturing artificial scarcity in a home they actually owned. And that introduces a heartbreaking question that no financial seminar ever asks. What happens to your humanity when you treat your own daily life as a disposable expense? By year 4 of the waiting period, the strain began to fracture their routine. The personal savings account they had earmarked to bridge the gap was draining at a terrifying speed. Inflation crept upward, grocery bills surged, and unexpected car repairs hit them like physical blows. The low-grade financial anxiety that hummed in the background of their lives every single day began to change them. Marcus became irritable, snapping over minor household chores because he was secretly terrified of a single unexpected bill. Clara stopped sleeping through the night, waking up at 3 in the morning to recalculate bank balances in the dark, her chest tight with a suffocating sense of dread. They thought they were playing a safe, conservative game. In reality, they were trading their physical vitality and emotional peace of mind for a mathematical promise that was losing its luster by the month. And that is when the first hidden layer of structural danger struck, right where they were most vulnerable. During the 5th year of their wait, Marcus noticed his right knee was locking up completely. The years of carrying heavy tools and climbing industrial scaffolding had finally caught up with cartilage that was past its expiration date. The doctor recommended a routine surgical cleanup, a procedure that would have restored his mobility during his mid-60s, while he still had the energy to enjoy a hike or a walk in the park. Marcus looked at Clara across the kitchen table and uttered a sentence that broke something quiet inside them both. "We cannot afford the deductible right now. We have to make it to 70. They postponed the procedure. Marcus spent the next 3 years favoring one leg, modifying his steps, and slowly giving up the simple physical freedoms he had worked his entire life to earn. The trips they had dreamed of taking together, exploring coastal trails, visiting old friends across the country, were quietly crossed off their list, replaced by a sedentary routine dictated by chronic pain and financial fear. They were saving every penny for a future version of themselves that was steadily deteriorating in the present. The surprising part is not that Marcus and Clara made this mistake. The surprising part is how universally intelligent, hardworking people fall into the exact same trap every single day. We are so conditioned to fear running out of money in our 80s that we willingly starve our lives in our 60s. We treat our time on Earth like an infinite resource during the exact decade when our bodies are still capable of experiencing it fully, while hoarding numbers on a digital statement that we may never live long enough to truly enjoy. And this leads directly into the second hidden layer that nobody warns you about: the dangerous tax collision waiting at the finish line. Marcus and Clara assumed that their Social Security benefits existed in a vacuum, entirely separated from the rest of their financial universe. They did not realize that delaying their claim forced them to aggressively drain their traditional IRAs year after year just to stay afloat during the waiting period. They thought they were just bridging a gap. They did not know they were setting a tax trap. When Marcus finally reached age 70 and the massive maximum Social Security check began rolling in, it crashed directly into the mandatory retirement account distributions that kicked in shortly after. Suddenly, their combined income pushed them into a significantly higher federal tax bracket than they had ever faced during their working years. The government wasn't just giving them a bigger check. It was quietly clawing back a massive chunk of it through higher taxes on every other dollar they owned. They had spent 8 years starving their present life to avoid an early filing reduction, only to discover that their delayed victory was immediately subjected to a punishing tax penalty. The system is a closed loop, balancing out across populations. But for an individual household, playing the waiting game without accounting for future tax brackets is like bailing water out of a sinking boat with a perforated bucket. And that brings us to the third and most painful layer of all: the behavioral illusion of control. Modern financial culture loves to frame retirement planning as an engineering challenge. If you pull the right levers, punch in the right ages, and follow the correct mathematical formulas, you will achieve optimal security. We cling to these numbers because uncertainty terrifies us. Math feels safe. Math gives us the illusion that we can outsmart aging, inflation, and unexpected health crises if we are just disciplined enough. But human beings are not spreadsheets. We cannot discount the emotional cost of chronic anxiety, the quiet grief of postponed dreams, or the physical price of a body wearing down while you wait for permission from a government calendar to start living. When the calendar finally turned and Marcus reached his 70th birthday, the moment arrived with quiet anticlimax. The Social Security Administration processed the paperwork. The maximum monthly check dropped into their checking account, matching the projector screen from the seminar down to the exact dollar. It was large. It was secure. It was everything the brochure promised. On paper, they had won. But on that Tuesday morning, as they sat together at the same kitchen table where they had made their pact 8 years earlier, there was no celebration. Marcus rubbed his stiff, calcified knee. Clara looked at her reflection in the dark kitchen window, her eyes carrying the invisible fatigue of years spent walking on eggshells. The check had finally arrived, but the people who were supposed to enjoy it had been worn down to a shell of who they used to be. They had optimized the government formula, but they had sacrificed the human experience. This is the hidden truth behind the advice we are handed by the financial establishment. The rules are real, the math is accurate, and the charts do not lie. But numbers cannot measure the value of a pain-free knee, a spontaneous weekend getaway, or a peaceful night's sleep when your health is still on your side. The ultimate lesson of Marcus and Clara is not that waiting is inherently evil, or that claiming early is a universal cure. The real realization is much deeper. Retirement planning is not a contest to see who can die with the largest monthly statement. It is an art form, the delicate, deliberate balancing act of matching your financial resources with your biological reality, while you still have the breath to appreciate the journey. Before you make your own permanent choice about when to file,